Hello, I'm Wayne Visser and I'm Director of CSR International, and I'm here today in Beijing with Mark Wehling, who is a Henry Luce visiting scholar at Peking University, coming from the United States. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
You've been focused on the last 9 months on CSR in China, taking various angles. Tell us a little bit about what you were looking at.
Well, when I came here, I was really looking to get an overall view of CSR in China and where it's headed, where it's coming from. And so then from the bird's eye view, or the macro view, I was starting to zoom in a little bit into the SMEs in particular, and to see what their incentives or motivations to engage in CSR might be. So from that initial perspective of CSR, as soon as I hit the ground, I clearly saw that it was an extremely hot topic here. It was also the fall leading up to Copenhagen, which of course means a lot in terms of the environmental angle of CSR. And there are a host of social issues, from labor to health to education, that businesses are working with as well. But that particular issue meant that the fall and winter, which was the brunt of my time here, was very focused on environmental issues. And so while I'm not coming from an environmental background, it was really interesting to come into that environment when China and the world was trying to figure out how businesses would go and run with the policies that might or might not be created in Copenhagen. We saw, of course, what happened.
And when you say a hot topic, what are you actually seeing companies doing?
Well, I'm seeing them do a lot of conferences, for one. It's on a daily basis. You're seeing new research centers pop up, new departments within not only the state-owned companies, which are taking a leadership role at the encouraging of the government in CSR, but private companies, and starting to stretch into the SMEs as well. And so that means there's not only these conferences on a daily basis and new research interest into it, but the business is definitely moving in that direction. Now, whether it moves into sort of where a lot of the other countries in the world are in talking about CSR is to be seen. I think each country is in a different situation, and Asia itself has its own circumstances right now, but China especially is unique among that.
So what type of CSR are you seeing emerge here, if you were to describe it?
Well, it's largely, from the Chinese companies, it's largely philanthropy based. And a big piece of that was the Sichuan earthquake several years ago, where companies took a major role. Prior to that, it was multinationals in their labor supply chain looking at CSR. So I think right now the interesting thing is that Chinese companies are trying to move out of the philanthropy mode and get more towards strategic CSR. Porter's name comes up often, and companies are looking at how they can actually incorporate it into their business model. A few have been able to do that. Actually, the first state-owned company that issued a CSR report, Guojia Dianwang, State Grid, the state power company, 1.6 employees strong, no less, and a key player, of course, with environmental issues, issued some changes from philanthropy, which they were doing, toward the general business model. And of course, it's quite easy for a power company to go that direction because they absolutely have to. And when China signs on to agreements internationally and looks to change its footprint, it's the power company first and foremost.
And what has been the role of the state in encouraging CSR and getting involved?
Well, there's a couple groups that are pushing it most. The SASAC, which is the State Assets Supervisory and Administration Committee, I believe is the name, and so this group is pushing the state-owned companies to not only create CSR departments, but create CSR reports annually, and that number has skyrocketed every year in the last 5 years or so in terms of companies producing. There's also the MOFCOM, the Ministry of Commerce, which is heavily pushing CSR. They're trying to expand it not only within the state-owned companies, but into other sectors of Chinese society, as well as continue collaborating with multinationals, as multinationals continue to try and build their own CSR, not only for the Western activism that's caused problems in the past for multinationals, but also for gaining new Chinese consumers as the Chinese middle class grows. They know that they have to be socially responsible here in China.
And you said you looked a little bit at SMEs. What's your impression of CSR for SMEs in China?
Well, considering how difficult it is for large companies to get it right sometimes, and considering there are many definitions for what's right and what's wrong in a company's actions, the big companies obviously have enough trouble. The small, the medium-sized, a little bit off the radar in terms of the web, in terms of publicity and image issues, certainly don't have as much clear incentive to engage in what we call CSR. Now at the same time, perhaps they're being socially responsible as much as any other, but they don't consider it CSR. They don't brand it as CSR, they don't publish reports, nor do they look for attention from it. So in that sense, this the implicit CSR that's underway there is probably the key driver for a lot of China, where the large companies are not based, but many of the central and western provinces, the SME actually could play a key role. I think given the difficulties of SMEs to stretch their finances is going to be a problem, though. It's a struggle for SMEs worldwide to do CSR, and in China, when they're trying to grow the economy at such a breakneck speed, and there's product quality issues that emanate from tight budgets, I think it's going to be very difficult for SMEs to continue. So with my research, I've tried to look at the role of the manager, and I think the individual owner or manager plays a key role with that, but whether they are believers of CSR or of environmental and social responsibility management is one thing, but whether they actually have the opportunity, the cash, quite literally to take action is another thing.
And perhaps final question, some of the attention on China seems to be around what they're doing in the, if you like, clean tech or green tech space. Are you seeing much of that, and is it being linked in any way to the CSR agenda?
It certainly is, yeah. I can't tell you how much talk there is around low carbon economy, new technologies, innovation especially being a key word as China tries to build global brands, but also reshape its economy away from manufacturing. I think to look into, I'm sorry, I forgot what you asked there.
Well, so just whether the innovation agenda around clean tech and green tech is in some way shaping the CSR agenda.
Yeah. So, sorry. The green issue is in fact probably the foremost issue that's getting companies away from philanthropy, and so I think that's going to be the key changer in how companies engage in CSR and build it into their model.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for your insights today.
Thank you.
Cheers.